Hello everybody, welcome to another video. My name is Infiniti and I am back finally with another Sentro knitting machine tutorial. Today I am in the studio over hiatus and I am crafting up a bunch of my Sentro scrunchies. You can find the tutorial for that project back on my channel under the Sentro knitting machine playlist that I have. So today I accidentally played Yarn Chicken, and I know that can happen, especially when you're in the groove of a project and you're going to want to know how to remedy this situation if you accidentally run out of yarn and you don't have replacement for it. So today I have a pair of circulars. I think these are like 8" or something. Very short. You don't need much for the mini Sentro machine. You can get a longer pair for the larger machine if you run into this problem on that one. But what I do, first of all, I've gotten to a point where I have cranked my entire row without yarn. And so now I need to take my stitches off my machine. So what I'm going to do with these short circular needles is I'm just going to slip them off as though as I would with a yarn needle. So just make sure I have all of my plies off of that needle. And be careful not to pull off more than one stitch. I already had these stitches pulled up before I started recording this, so I'm safe for now. But as always, I like to put a finger over the next knob as I'm pulling off a stitch, just because sometimes you can lose multiple stitches at one time, and that prevents that. I'm just going to go around. It's only 22 needles on this mini Sentro. I'm going to leave the link to this machine in my description box, so if you want to check this machine out for yourself, you can. But as you can see, I'm very smoothly casting off my stitches. Alright, just moving that extra yarn out of my way. In some ways this is less tricky than using the yarn needle. I'm finding in this moment. Alright. And that last stitch for me is still down in the machine, so I need to crank again so I can go in there and just loop him off the machine. Alright, so now I have safely cast off all of my stitches from my Sentro machine. Now I want to get into reversing maybe about a row or two of your work so that you can retrieve some of that yarn that you need to finish sewing off your project. Alright, now that I have these all cast off, they look really pretty on my needles right now. I'm really admiring this. But anyway, what you're going to do is you're going to find the end where your yarn is sticking out. So your working yarn tail, mine is on this side. So what I'm going to do, I see that this particular string is coming from my second live stitch. So I'm just going to keep that in mind. I'm going to just unthread my loops here from this yarn needles. I'm just gently pulling them out so I don't really pull out any stitches. Okay, and so looking at this side where I have my yarn coming out of, I'm going to go into the stitch that's directly below my working yarn or my live row. So I'm just going to insert it purlwise, and I'm going to go through each of these stitches, essentially recasting them on, but just the row below where all the live stitches are. And this is going to allow us to pull back an entire row without necessarily having to frog our project. So it's a slow process, but you want to be very careful, very meticulous about this so you don't lose all your precious stitches. If you're like me and you learn to knit second, I find it to be the biggest pain in the world to lose knitting stitches, okay? Like, I'm sure veteran knitters they don't care so much. But if crochet was your first craft, you're familiar with frogging and crochet, it's a lot simpler with that because you don't have a bunch of live stitches going at one time. But this is almost done. And going into that last one. Alright, so the magic about this now that we have gone into that row just below our live row is that we can now just take our working yarn and pluck all those stitches out without worrying about messing up our whole project. Because normally if you didn't have this here or some knitting needle in your project, you would end up unraveling way more than what you need. And by doing this one row at a time, you can ensure that you're not doing that. So I know that I need probably about twice as much yarn, so I'm going to go ahead and go for another row. And in my case, using a pair of circular needles, if I wanted to, I could take the opposite end and I can work in that row below and do that so that I don't have to worry about losing my live stitches on this row. And if you have them, you can use the little end stoppers. So yeah, you can use one of these. Some of them look a little different. I don't have those nearby, but I have these, so they'll work just fine. And if you feel the need to, you can just stick it on the end of there, and it should stop your stitches from falling off of there. You can do all the tugging you want. Well, just about all the tugging you want, and it won't come off of there as long as you put it on there good and firm. So what I'm going to do is repeat the process that I just went through. So I'm going to insert my needle purlwise in the row just below this one. Alright, my stitch is a little weird here. Alright, and I'm just gonna work into all of those stitches a row below my live row. I probably should have soaked these needles in warm water before I used them, but they were so handy. Alright, I have most of mine in one swoop here because I'm a pro. And I'm almost at the end of my stitches here. And when you're doing this, you may want to keep a crochet hook handy in case you do lose some of your stitches. I don't anticipate losing mine, but it happens to the best of us. Alright, so now I can uncap that other row and just pull those out. I have my new row on this bottom needle, and I can just continue to pull that tail of yarn. And I think this row should be sufficient for my purposes today. But you would continue to do that for as long as you need to in your project to make sure that you have enough yarn. As you can see, I've pretty much tripled the length of yarn that I had in the beginning of this video. I hope this tutorial was helpful for you guys. This is just one of those random, oh, I discovered a thing type videos. So hopefully it helped you guys. I know sometimes with the Sentro and doing projects, it can be hard to troubleshoot things, so I do my best to put out these videos that I think will help you guys as I discover them. If you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on awesome weekly content like this. I typically post knitting type videos on Wednesdays at 9:30 a.m. CST. Also, if you want to support the channel, head on over to the website, check it out. Sign up for the email list. If you find a blog that you like, share the blog post. Sharing is the #1 way that you can help your favorite content creators on the internet. And until next time, guys, happy making. Okay guys, so I realized I just forgot. I forgot to show you guys. After you have rolled back your rows as much as you need to, you're going to go ahead and thread the end of your tail now, and you are just going to go about working through these loops like you cast off the machine just now. So what I like to do, again, go purlwise into the stitch below this first one. This is the only stitch you have to do this for, and I go ahead and I loop it through like in an S form. I'm gonna pull it through, and then I'm gonna go through this loop that this working yarn is about to make, just like that, and it creates kind of an inconspicuous way of binding off that stitch, so as you go through this first stitch you don't accidentally pull it through and lose that stitch in the entire row going down the project. So now what I'm doing is I'm just inserting my needle purlwise through all these stitches, making sure I catch all my plies, and I'm going to come out the other end eventually. Alright, and then I just pull it through, and then I can totally just toss these into another corner of my craft table because I successfully cast off all my stitches. So again, I do hope this video was helpful all in all today, and until next time, happy making!